Having difficulty making a decision, or feeling unable to make a decision, is an acutely painful emotional state. The best way to describe it is that it's a state of uncertainty. It puts you in limbo. It's a feeling of being frozen. Now, the purpose of our lives is progression and expansion, so it's easy to see how if you're in a state where you can't make a decision, the entire course of your life is put on hold, and the entire purpose of your life is put on hold. So obviously, there's going to be immense negative emotion present within your being. First thing is first. If we are experiencing difficulty making decisions, especially if this is a chronic thing which we struggle with, then in our childhood what we experienced is one or both of two very painful freeze states. I'll explain. The first is an experience, or many, where we felt like we couldn't win no matter what we did. It's the classic damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. The second is an experience, or many, where there was a high degree of value placed on right or wrong, success or failure. So we experienced painful consequences as a result of making the choice that our adult caregivers thought was wrong. This created a fear of making the wrong choice. So let's just jump right into it. What the hell should I do if I'm having a problem with indecision? 1. If we can't make a decision, it's because we fear the consequences of making the decision. So what we have to ask ourselves is, what exactly is the consequence or the consequences that I'm so afraid of? In the Western world, when we feel stuck because we can't make a decision between two difficult states, we call this being stuck between a rock and a hard place. So the question to ask yourself is, what is the rock and what is the hard place? What bad thing will happen if I make either decision? And what does this consequence mean to me or mean about me? 2. When you find out the consequence that you're afraid of, face those fears directly. You will find that your fears of consequences correlate directly to childhood wounds. What we have to do is to gift these childhood wounds our unconditional presence. Instead of trying to escape from them, we have to go back to the original trauma and to improve our vibration about that original state. Let's say your worst case scenario is abandonment. If you can feel the feeling of abandonment, be with the feeling of abandonment and use the feeling to access the memory of abandonment, which is being triggered by this scenario. To learn this process, watch my video on YouTube titled How to Heal the Emotional Body. When we integrate these childhood wounds, we will not feel the same way towards what we are afraid of. Potentially, if you chronically struggle to make decisions, you will even be led to memories where you have suffered as a result of making decisions as a child, or memories where you're stuck in a lose-lose scenario. Also, release resistance by allowing yourself to go to the worst-case scenario, and then incrementally soothe yourself by thinking thoughts and doing things which cause you to feel better about the worst-case scenario. If you are able to soothe yourself into a space of feeling better about the worst-case scenarios, then your subconscious mind, your fight or flight mode, is not going to be spending so much focus on the worst-case scenario. You have more of your attention to orient towards something that feels better. The more aware we are of what we're afraid of, the more conscious we are, and the less power these fears have over us. Find the beliefs you have about these worst-case scenarios as well. For example, if I think a consequence of making a decision might be I'll lose my whole family, then I ask myself, why would that be so bad? What am I really afraid of about this worst-case scenario and what it means? The answer might be if I lose my family, I'll be all alone. This is a belief I can work with. I can question the belief and change the belief. My favorite process for questioning a belief is offered by Byron Katie. It's a process called the work. And if you want to change a belief, you can watch my video on YouTube titled How to Change a Belief. The meaning you give something controls how you feel. We have to be willing to alter the meaning of an experience if we want to feel better about it. And how we feel about something controls the decisions we make about something, or whether we make a decision at all. 3. Once we have done that, we can take a close look at these worst-case scenarios and ask ourselves a very interesting question. What is this worst-case scenario teaching me that I know that I want? When we have keen awareness of something that is unwanted, and let's face it, worst case scenario is unwanted, that gives us acute awareness of what it is that we want. And so what we're meant to do as creators is to place our full attention on the thing that is wanted instead of the thing that is unwanted. But if I put my attention on what I want, the opportunities, the places, the people, and the things, and the decisions which are in alignment with that thing that I want will come into focus and into clarity for me. If you're struggling to figure out what you want, you can watch my video on YouTube titled How to Discover What You Want. 4. If we really can't make a decision, we have to release resistance to the idea that we have to make a decision, and instead we need to place our focus squarely on anything that causes us to come into alignment. In layman's terms, this means we have to focus on anything that feels good. In the universal sense, the minute we know what we want, which can be conscious or subconscious, our higher self already becomes the vibrational equivalent of that thing. We are then pulled towards it, as if by a huge magnet. When we are focused on things that cause us to feel bad, we are turned in the opposite direction of it. And when we are focused on things that cause us to feel good, we are turned in the direction of it. So, if we focus upon anything that causes us to feel good about any subject, we are allowing ourselves to flow towards what is wanted, and the opportunities and people and circumstances that are a match to what we want come into manifested reality. It is very easy to then feel clear about the decision we need to make. The decisions made from a space of feeling good are always the right decisions for you personally. The actions taken from a place of feeling good are always the right actions to take. When it comes to making a decision, unless the inspiration is so strong that you couldn't be kept back from making that decision or taking that action, you probably aren't ready to make the decision or take the action yet. So instead, I want you to just continue to focus positively. It would be best if you could focus positively towards what you want, but focus positively towards anything, until you get to that point where the inspiration quite literally is undeniable. So how does this look practically? Let's say that you have to decide whether to end a relationship or not, but you just can't decide. It seems like pain either way. You face and release resistance to the potential consequences of both staying in and of ending the relationship by revisiting and integrating the wounds that are being triggered from your childhood, and you soothe yourself into feeling better about the potential consequences, and question and change your thoughts about those consequences. You then focus on what the scenario is causing you to know that you want. So let's pretend that it's causing you to know that you want to know yourself and what you want so clearly that you are confident of what decisions to make. Perhaps it's causing you to know that you want a partner that you are sure you want to be with because the relationship feels supportive and safe and consistent. You visualize what already having those things in your life would look like or feel like. You think about why you want those things. You deliberately choose thoughts and things to focus on that make you believe it is possible for you. You look for ways you already do have those things that you think you lack in your life already. Or, if it's too hard to focus on what you want, you focus on anything general that feels good, like gratitude lists or funny movies or exercise or inspirational speeches. And what you will find is that eventually, with enough alignment, the decision will become clear to you. You may find that when you are in alignment and thus feeling good, you know that the best choice is to end your relationship, and instead of feeling terrifying, it feels right. Then you might feel the impulse to call your partner and ask to meet up, so you can end the relationship. In other words, your inspired action or inspired decision will become clear to you, and it will be the decision that will bring you to the doorstep of what you really want. And then, instead of trying to go find the opportunities and circumstances and people who you think will fulfill your desires, they will come to you, and all you will have to do is to say yes or no to it. But because you're already in alignment, the saying yes or saying no to the opportunities will be an easy choice, or as we say in America, a no-brainer. If we are in alignment and feeling good, the decisions we need to make come to us with no effort. That sums up the way we were meant to make decisions or intended to make decisions before we came into this life and decided that making decisions was absolutely terrifying. But I'm going to give you some more tips that will also help with your decision-making process or with struggling with indecision. 1. You need to understand that not making a decision is in fact a decision to not decide. It takes you squarely out of the driver's seat of your life and places you in the back seat. If you decide to not make a decision, then a decision will be made for you by the universe or by life itself or by the people around you. You can't put a pause button on life. The river of life never stops flowing, and time is not going to hold still. And so you will be led by this universe towards your highest good, whether you have active participation in it or not. The problem is, often when we don't actively participate in decisions, we get led to more reasons why we should have an active participation in the decisions that we make. You have to ask yourself, is it serving me to be in the back seat of life and let the universe or other people decide my life for me right now, or does it not serve me? But we have to be really honest with ourselves when we ask ourselves this question, because what we might find is that it absolutely is self-loving. It absolutely is the best thing for us to be in the backseat of life because we are practicing a state of allowing. However, sometimes it is absolutely the opposite of good for us to sit in the backseat of life and to let life take us where it wants to go, because it's self-sabotage. So be willing to be honest about whether your decision to not make a decision is self-loving or is self-sabotage. 2, no matter what decision you make, you can always make a different decision. You are living in a universe that is based on free will. What free will means is choice. It means that even if you make a certain decision today, you can change your mind tomorrow, and you can go in a radically new direction. This will help you to release some of the resistance to the idea that I am going to be locked in and trapped by making a decision that may not really feel good in the long run. You have the ability to choose again, and the beauty of choice is that every choice we make brings us closer and closer to the awareness of not only who we really are, but of what we truly want. And to create the life we want, we first have to know what we want. 3, you can't get this life wrong. So many of us that are down here in the rat race of life are constantly chasing after this idea that there's some state of perfection that exists that we have to line up with or match up to. It doesn't exist. You can't get it wrong, so you can't really make a bad choice, because even if you make a choice that you decide is not ultimately good for you, it's just giving you more clarity and thus the universe more expansion. The universe has not decided what is right and what is wrong for you. Free will is about your ability to choose and know what is right for you personally and not anyone else. So you ultimately can't make a wrong decision. 4, take a serious look at your addiction to being right and being good. If you have a difficulty with indecision, then you are addicted to the idea of rightness, and you are addicted to the idea of goodness. So ask yourself, what is it that I'm getting out of being right or being good? You need to look at the universal truth that there is no right or wrong, because right or wrong is a matter of perspective. Right and wrong is born out of cultural relativism. Don't believe me? Look at the world today. If you lived with an Eskimo culture, you would believe there is nothing wrong with killing your infant if you couldn't reasonably support it. If you lived in American culture, you'd believe someone who killed their infant should go to jail for murder. Your definition of right and wrong depends upon the society and family you were raised in. I certainly hope they were right. And if you are searching for a universal truth to teach you what is right versus wrong, good luck. Because the universal truth is there is no right or wrong. All that exists is you as an individual knowing what is technically right and thus feels the best for you specifically. Even if you just took any action and made any decision, that would be progression and movement and would give you more information about what is right for you and what you want. 5, the thing that we may hate about indecision is in fact uncertainty. Sometimes when we feel the need to make a decision so strongly that we begin to resist indecision itself and feel the desperate urge to make a decision, we hold ourselves in a place of indecision because whatever we resist persists. When this is the case, we have to take the complete opposite approach to indecision and become okay with indecision. For this reason, I want you to watch my video on YouTube titled, How to Deal with Uncertainty. Then I want you to get way outside the box, and I want you to think about why it is okay to not make a decision, how it might be a good thing to not make a decision. As what is unwanted, and to the opposite of that, what is wanted, comes more into clarity throughout the course of your life, momentum will be building on the side of your desires. You will be pulled in the direction of that more and more until it becomes too uncomfortable to stay in the place that you are in, and the decision will be made for you. It will be fairly easy. So if you have extreme resistance to the fact that you can't make a decision right now, and you really, really need to, repeat after me. I'll know when I know. 6. Make your practice in life, whether you're spiritual or not, the practice of increasing your self-esteem, your self-concept. If we have high levels of self-esteem, of self-worth, and of self-love, making decisions that are right for us becomes very easy. To the contrary, if we don't have these things, it becomes very difficult, because we have to get those things through other people. So our first priority is to figure out how to get the reaction we want out of them. Do you know how difficult it is to make a decision that is right for you if you're factoring in the reaction you want to get from other people? If you struggle with self-worth, watch my videos on YouTube titled How to Overcome Shame, How to Develop Healthy Boundaries, and How Do I Discover Self-Worth? 7. Trust your gut. Trust your intuition. What you will find is that when we have to make a decision, we almost always already know the answer. It's just that we don't have all of the confidence yet to act on that particular decision that we already know the answer to. Your intuition will not compete for airtime with your ego, which is ruled by fear. So it will often be the stable, solid, subtle knowing that is always there, nagging at you. The more you live according to your intuition, the louder your intuition will become. Your logical mind is ruled by a limited perspective, whereas your intuition is ruled by an objective perspective. Analyzing your choices often paralyzes you instead of helps you to make decisions, and often, no matter how much information you have, making a decision does not become any easier. No matter what, your intuition will never lead you in the wrong direction. But there should be a little bit of a caution flag when we say that your intuition and your gut feeling will never lead you in the wrong direction, and this is why. Your soul, upon coming into this earth, had absolutely no plan to avoid pain, because it knew that pain was one of the greatest teachers. And so it is common that when you follow your intuition, you are led in the direction of your highest good, but to get to that highest good, you may have to face some of your greatest difficulties. Your soul's prerogative is not to keep you comfortable. It's to take you to what you want through the quickest route possible. In other words, it will provide you with the most expansion and growth. Sometimes this will feel amazing. Sometimes this will feel like pain. So ask yourself, is my goal to avoid pain, or is my goal to experience the things that I am wanting? Because they are very different things. If you struggle with intuition, then you struggle with self-trust. For this reason, I want you to watch my video on YouTube titled How to Trust Yourself. 8. This suggestion might seem fairly odd, but it works. Flip a coin. What happens when you flip a coin is, either you're sitting in the backseat of your life and you're letting the universe decide for you, and then you're going forward with that choice and gaining more knowledge about what is wanted. Or else, as you flip that coin, you will discover what you really wanted. Then you can make that decision. It becomes easier. You can flow in the direction of what you really did want, but just didn't have the guts to say. After having outlined all of my suggestions about dealing with indecision, I couldn't fail to mention the fact that when we feel as if we are stuck between two things, both of which we don't like the look of, our perspective is often being completely limited, when there is always a third option. So when you feel faced with that difficult decision, when you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, I want you to look for this third option. Make that a new practice. I'll give you a hint that most often the third option is a blend of the best of both choices. when you definitively make a decision based on what is in alignment for you, instead of going back on that decision or doubting it, I want you to line up with that decision 100%. Find supporting evidence as to why it is a good decision. Focus on the positives of making that particular decision, and you will experience yourself flowing in the direction of your own expansion, coming into the next phase of what you really, really want, instead of holding yourself apart from going in the direction of your own expansion. And so, at the end of this episode, I want you to understand something, which I've said several times, but I will say it again. You cannot make a wrong choice. Have a good week.